A groundbreaking new housing policy paper was published yesterday, one that seemingly won the approval of Housing Secretary Michael Gove, who retweeted the paper twice. Create Mews, as it's called, proposes giving local blocks the powers to replace dilapidated alleyways with new mews. Delivering these attractive, walkable brownfield developments could provide hundreds of thousands of homes and go some way to solving the housing crisis. Now, here's an example of a rundown backstreet in the paper and what it could be transformed to. If you're listening on the radio, do look out for this on social media, on GBNews social media, because these backstreets can be turned into attractive housing. There's just a little example of what this paper sets out to do. Well, let's talk now to Nicolas Boys Smith, the founding director of Create Streets, the organisation behind the paper. Welcome to the programme.
Good morning.
First of all, this looks like an eminently sensible thing to do. Why isn't it currently the case already?
Well, we have a very strange, we have a very strange planning system in this country, which instead of setting out clear rules about what can or can't be done, requires a case-by-case discretionary approach. So every decision is treated as if it's a major planning application, even if it's just quite a minor addition to a house or a new build in this type of back alley. The consequence of that is that the risk, the upfront cost, makes this a difficult thing to do, and we're left with also a specific, almost a sort of dilemma that one single house owner proposing to do this is going to increase the value of his property, but may decrease the value of surrounding properties if they're not all doing it together. So we get to this classic dilemma where what's good for one is not good for all. So what we're trying to do here is, by setting a clearer rules and a clearer process, is allowing all of the neighbourhoods, all of a block, all of a street to band together and collectively increase the number of homes and increase the value of their properties.
I really enjoyed one of the analogies in the paper, which was speaking about those landowners who owned huge parts of cities like London in the sort of Victorian era or before, and they'd create areas like Pimlico, like Mayfair, and it would all look sort of uniform and the same. And that's something you can do if you own sort of a huge area like that, but that's not so possible now. So it's sort of democratising that process.
It's very good to pick up on that point. I mean, we're not suggesting going back to the great estates, but their ability to create what I always refer to as variety within a pattern, clearly worked, because 200, 300, 400 years on, those bits of London are still some of the most popular, still some of the most valuable, still some of the most admired, even after 200 years of change. So what we're trying to do is to allow individual groups of people to band together in a way by, what's good for one is good for all.
Now, what do you say to the people who say that we've simply got enough houses in the UK, that sort of say that the housing crisis is a bit of a figment of people's imagination?
It's hard to know where to start with that one. It's just provably false. If you look at the ratio of households to homes, even without taking account of probably suppressed household formation over the last 20 or 30 years, we're several million homes short of where we should be. I'm sure all your viewers know the data on housing affordability. We're chronically undermining the income and the standard of living of anyone basically under the age of 35, and that can't go on. There are some tricks around the corner which perhaps undermine that point. So clearly we do have an unequal economy, with the South East driving much of our economic growth. If we are able to level up, it would be possible to slightly undermine that. But the key point is that we've got existing urban infrastructure, towns, cities, neighbourhoods, lots of interwar housing, which is actually quite unintensively used. And if we were able...
and your organisation is trying to create what you call gentle density. So not big tower blocks, but not very non-dense, sparsely populated areas. How do you define gentle density?
Anywhere between about 30 or 40 homes per hectare up to about 250, 300 homes per hectare. So Wandsworth through to Earl's Court, to put it in London terms. And the reason we make that case is, there are advantages to personal space. Most of us want access to private garden or to have a flat or home that's big enough. Those are good things for us. There are also advantages to propinquity. The ability to live more sustainably, to combine taking your kids to school or going to the office with meeting friends for a cup of coffee. Also, cities have agglomeration effects. We tend to be more productive, to earn more money, to give more back to the economy when we live in urban cores. However, if we're forced to live, other than if we want to, in a tiny flat up on the 55th floor down the end of a double-fronted white corridor, we tend to know fewer of our neighbours, to be less happy and to interact less with the town and city around us. So this is a way of trying to have our cake and eat it by allowing gentle intensification, which used to happen. That's how our cities evolved. But we basically turned that off about 70 years ago when we created the current planning system.
Well, having our cake and eating it, it's the policy prize that everyone aspires to. Good luck with pushing this through. It seems like the Housing Secretary might well approve of this idea.